Okay, so let's understand the pricing of a callable bonds. Remember, I have already introduced you the callable bond and convertible bond. There we have understood that a callable bond wherein the issuer can call for redemption prior to the date of maturity, right? So, callable bonds are the bonds, okay, which can be called for redemption prior to the maturity or the maturity date. So, a specified call price should be paid to the investor, which was usually fixed at the issue date of the bond. Okay, the call price may be the bond's face value or a little bit higher than that also. And the difference between the call price and the face value is usually known as the call premium. Okay. So, only remember that only the bond issuers and not the bond holders have the right to call the bond before the maturity. Okay. So, the issuer actually will issue such type of bond to take the advantage of the possible lower interest rate in the future. So, an issuer may choose to call a bond when the current interest rate drops below the coupon rate of the bond. Okay. In this situation, the issuer will save money by paying off the bond and issue a new bond at a lower interest rate. That is the advantage of the issuer to issue the callable bond, which we have already understood in the previous session. So, as a result of this unadvantageous call, this type of bonds is usually associated with a higher interest rate, and therefore we will understand in this way that investors of callable bonds often require a higher yield to compensate for the call risk as compared to the non callable bonds. Okay. So, in order to attract the investors, some callable bonds offer a call protection period. What is call protection period? The protection period, before which the issuer cannot able to call for redemption. Okay, so the issuer is not allowed to call the bond before the ending date of the protection period, and the first call date is the date after which the bond is fully callable. Okay, so I believe you have at least understood the callable bond. So, assuming the yield rate remaining unchanged, if a callable bond is traded at a discount and the call price is fixed at the bond's redemption value, the optimal call date for the issuer is at maturity. On the other hand, if a callable bond is traded at a premium, and the call price is fixed at the bond's redemption value, the optimal call date for the issuer is the first call date. Okay. Now let us take one example to understand the pricing of such callable bond. Okay. Consider the same example what we have already taken earlier. Now again rewrite this. Consider a 1000 rupees face value bond maturing within 3 years, okay, and the coupon rate is 5% per annum, okay, compounded semi annually. The current required rate of return, that is the I or the yield, okay, for the bond is 4%, which is again convertible semi annually. So we will just divide this 5, okay, by 2 and this 4 by 2, and then we will proceed to compute the price of the bond. Okay. Now assume that this bond is callable and the first call date is immediately after the fourth coupon payment. Okay. So calculate the price of the bond for the yield to be at least 4% compounded semi annually. Okay, so let us do that now. So remember that we have here the F, that is the face value 1000 rupees, and the coupon rate which is 4%. Now it is semi-annually compounded, so we have just divided this 4% to 2, and then we have here 0.02. So the FR or the coupon amount will be 25 rupees. Okay, so assuming first call date is the maturity date, okay, of the bond, sorry, this is of the bond, the price of the bond can be calculated as, P is equal to 25 times the annuity factor plus 1000, that is the face value, times the present value factor, okay, considering n is equal to 4 and I is equal to 0.02. So use the formula here, okay, here the annuity factor formula and here the present value factor formula, and then recalculate it, you will get 1019.04. So I am not doing it again and again because I have shown you how to compute this type of like value several times, so you can easily compute it using your calculator. Okay, so we further compute the price of the bond at different dates. So assuming all possible call dates, okay, namely after the 5th and 6th coupon payment, again here like coupon payment. So P is equal to, therefore, okay, assuming now n is equal to 5 and I the same 0.02, okay, we will again compute the price of the bond, okay, considering 5th coupon payment, okay, and considering this like price of the bond after the 6th coupon payment, again we will compute as this. So what we have got here, we have seen that after 4th coupon payment, 5th coupon payment and 6th coupon payment, we have the lowest price is 1019.04. Therefore the price of the bond is lowest among all possible value, that is this one, okay, that is 1019.04. So let us take second example, another example. So the example says, consider a $1000 face value 15-year bond with coupon rate R is equal to 4%, convertible semi-annually. The bond is callable and the first call date is the date immediately after 15th coupon payment. Okay, assume that the issuer will only call the bond at the date immediately after the nth coupon, okay, which is n is lying in between 15 and 20, and the call price is given as this, that is C is equal to 1000 if n is greater than equal to 15 but less than equal to 20. Okay, or C is equal to 1000 plus 10 multiplied by n minus 20 if n is greater than 20 but less than equal to 30. Now find the price of the bond if the investor want to achieve a yield of at least 5% compounded semi annually. Okay, so let us have the solution here. First, we compute the price of the bond assuming all possible call dates with R is now 0.02 and I is now 0.025, okay, and the face value is given as 1000, okay, and the value of C is the redemption value, okay. Following the call price formula, we can now use the 15th coupon payment as our redemption value, and therefore we will consider n is equal to 15, and then we will proceed every time putting n is equal to 15, n is equal to 16, 17, 18, so on up to 30, and then we can compute when we keeping n is equal to 15 and r is equal to r is equal to 4%, which is converted to semi-annually, that is at r now is 0.02, and therefore fr is equal to 20 and n is 15 here, I is 0.025, and then this is the annuity factor and this is the present value factor. Using this formula we will get price is equal to 938.09. Similarly, we will compute this after the 6th coupon payment, okay, placing this n is equal to 16 and remaining values are same here, okay, so that I is equal to 0.025 and here n is equal to 16, so we'll have like minus 16 here, and which will give us a value that is 934.72. So you can go on compute this till 30. So I have just done it 4 times, okay, like after 20th coupon payment, okay, you will just place it here like 20 and then you will get 922.05, okay, and when you calculate it for 30, okay, so n is equal to 30, then we have the price will become 943.02. so if you'll go on computing like this, then you will and then put it in a table, you will get a kind of this table. So you can see here that the lowest price, okay, is this one, okay, which is in bold letter here. So I compare all the price with, like after the 20th coupon, okay, the price is calculated to be 922.05. Therefore the minimum price is this one, that is 922.05, which assumes the bond will be called after the 20th coupon payment. So this is the price of the callable bond a defensive investor is willing to pay if she wants to obtain a yield of at least 5% compounded semi-annually. Okay, so we have to consider various prices, and then which will be the lowest price, that price actually will be considered by a defensive investor. Okay, okay, so let us calculate the same thing for the zero coupon bond. Of course we have already done it, but now just for our curiosity here, the zero coupon bond is also known as a deep discount bond or pure discount bond, okay, pure discount bond or deep discount bond, or also zero interest rate bond. So this type of bond is actually known as like any of the name. Okay, so let us understand this by considering again one example. A company may issue a pure discount bond of say rupees 1000 face value for a price of 520 or so for a period of 5 years, in which case we can simply use, okay, the and we understand that the this bond is like market price here is 522. So this bond has a purchase price of 520, okay, and the maturity value of 1000, which is written, and n is equal to 5. So nothing is mentioned here whether the interest rate is compounded semi-annually or annually. In such case we will consider that this interest rate is for annual interest rate, okay, or the coupon rate is for annual interest rate, and then we can proceed. Okay, so let's calculate the rate of interest. Therefore, okay, placing the same price, right, so P here is now 520 is equal to, this is the face value 1000 divided by 1 plus the yield rate, okay, IY is the yield to the power n, which is 5. So, upon solving this, you will get 1 plus iy to the power 5 is equal to 1.9231, right? Or we can simply have it here like 1 plus iy is equal to 1.9231, okay, to the power 1 upon 5 or to the power 0.2, okay. So, we can have it here, and therefore, iy is equal to 1.9231 to the power 0.2 minus 1 will be 13.97%, okay, or you can simply say around 14%. Okay, so the yield to maturity for this type of bond or the yield is now considered as 13.97 or 14%. Okay. So, another type of bond which is known as perpetual bond. Remember what do you understand by the term perpetuity? Perpetuity is look like the annuity, but it never terminates. So, a stream of cash flow that never terminates is known as perpetuity, what you have already understood. Okay. So, this perpetuity is also called as console, okay, or we can like also called console, okay. And this perpetual bond has an indefinite life and therefore has no maturity value. We have already understood this, okay. But remember that this type of bond in very rarely found in practice, but we can like sometime it feasible, okay. For example, England once issued, okay, this type of bond, okay, immediately after the Napoleon War, okay. England has issued some bond, okay, to pay off many smaller issues that had been like floated in the prior that year, okay. And therefore we have understood that even though it is rarely exist, but sometime the country use it, okay. So, in the case of perpetual bonds, as there is no maturity value or as there is no terminal value, okay, the price of the bond therefore is simply the discounted value of the infinite stream of interest flow only, okay. So, for example, suppose a 10% 1000 rupees face value bond will pay 100 rupees annual interest into perpetuity. What would be its value of bond if the market yield or the interest were 15%? Okay, here we will compute the price as simply taking interest divided by the yield rate, that is 100 divided by 0.15, which will give us a 666.666, okay, or we will take it like 667, okay, you can directly take it like that, okay. Or if the market yield is, suppose if the market yield is rather than 15%, if it is 10%, then we can simply have it how much? So, 100 divided by 10 is equal to 1000, right. So, you will have 1000. On the other hand, if the market yield is again like 20% rather than this value, then the market price or the price of this bond, okay, or this perpetuity is in fact 500. So, what we have observed here is, okay, the value of bond will decrease as the interest rate increases, okay, and vice versa, right. So, there is an inverse relationship between the value of the bond and the interest rate associated with. Now, another concept which we must understand is the book value of a bond and the market value of a bond. What is meant by the book value of a bond? Remember, the book value is the value which is written on the book, okay, or the financial statement or the financial accounting, okay, purpose. So this is the carrying value of the debt, okay, which is calculated as the face value plus any unamortized premium, or we will deduct any unamortized discount, okay, and it represents the net liability on the company's financial records. On the other hand, the book value is the current market price at which the bond can be bought or sold in the open market. It is determined by the supply, the demand, or the current interest rate and the issuer's creditworthiness. Okay, so like sometimes the market value and the book value are significantly different, right? So you have to like notice one thing, that market value has an inverse relationship with the interest rate. Means what we have already understood is when the interest rate rise, the market value falls. Okay, whereas book value does not. Okay, the market value will change, but the book value will remain the same, right? So regardless of its market price during its lifetime, the bond's book value will equal its face value upon its maturity, right? So imagine a company issue a 1000 rupees bond, okay, that is the face value is 1000 rupees at a discount, receiving suppose only 950 rupees. Okay, so the book value will be start from the 950 rupees and amortize towards the face value, that is 1000 rupees. Okay, like, and the market value, if the market interest rate rise, the bond price might drop to either 920, okay, or even if the bond value, or sorry, even if the book value has amortized to 960, the market price, okay, the market interest rate rise, the bonds price or the market price will decrease to maybe like 920, let's say. Okay, so what is the result here? The investor would see a 920 rupees market value, while the issuer record 960 as the book value. So if you are the investor, then you will see that it is decreasing. The value is now 920, but the book value is like the 960 here in this case. Okay, so the market value will change, but the book value will never change. Okay, only this is the thing. So I believe now you have heard at least the concepts of bonds and the basics of bonds, okay, in which we have understood how to compute the bond pricing, okay, and also slowly we have understood what is the book value and market value of bond. Okay, now in the next session we will be discussing the behavior of bond. There we will see what are the factors determining the demand for bond and the supply of bond, and therefore the equilibrium bond price and equilibrium interest rate.